Thank you guys so much. So the first thing that you might notice when you sit down is that we have evaluation forms set out in front of you. If there's not one right in front of you, maybe in the empty chair next to you or behind you. So whenever you get a chance, you can start filling it out now, or after we finish up here. And just leave them on your table. We'll come around and collect them. Yeah, we just wanted to take 10 minutes briefly here at the end to check in with you all and get a little bit of feedback. And what I'm really curious about is after these open space, like small group discussions, I just want to know, were there any things that came up in your group discussion that were just sort of like light bulbs, like, oh my gosh, this is an obvious truth that we need to be working on more diligently, or just interesting ideas? Just raise your hand, anyone who had something interesting come up in your group.
This doesn't have to be the leaders of the group, preferably not. But.
Well, the producer cooperative, one of the things that just came out was that it would be nice to have an inventory of growers.
Okay, so an inventory of growers, yeah.
So I'm assuming something kind of along that line will come out of this conference. There's a way to make that, obviously, you don't have to opt out, but if there's a way to make that accessible to folks, that would be great.
Okay, yeah, well, we obviously put together a list of growers to even make this event possible, so we have the beginning of that. Yeah, over here.
This actually didn't come out of the session, but along that same line, and I had a little confusion. I saw the slow money thing, but it was coming through the Santa Cruz, and I didn't actually find this event and the whole registration for that up front. And I find being new at this, there seems to be these different organizations. The Santa Cruz, there's like a Baja group, there's this group, there's that group, and I unfortunately haven't been able to get into the food bank markets yet. So I would really like to see a listing and who's who, of all of you, and what are those areas of, kind of responsibility, or what exactly are you guys doing?
Like
how do you guys interact?
Support network.
Right. Well, how do you interact?
Okay. Yeah. Well, again, the leadership council from the Pima County Food Systems Alliance is here.
Yeah.
So we'll.
Oh, it's awesome. Don't take that as a criticism.
Oh,
no, it's great. I'm confused.
Yeah, sure.
We're confused at times also as far as who's doing what and when. And we're still learning sometimes what another group is doing and how we could possibly use that. And we were just at the verge of maybe repeating what they did already. So
right,
that's a good
exactly.
point.
That's what I mean. It's like there's got to be more integration, I think, not only of the producers in that, but of these organizations. More crosstalk there.
I hope I say this correctly, but something I found really interesting in our session was that I found out that the tax codes are basically there to help protect the land from developers, but then that stops small farms, right? Did I say that right, Barbara?
Well, the tax code doesn't encourage new and innovative farmers.
So that's a pretty big brick for people.
Yeah, so some of the policies, for sure.
Yeah. And so within that, I just hope that this event here will really start some sort of conglomeration of advocacy so that we can start doing the paperwork as a community and getting that stuff moving.
Kate, back there.
It's a network that's been working in southeast Arizona from Ajo to Douglas on both sides of the border for the last 2 years, called Somos La Semilla. And it's Kelly Waters, who's based at the food bank, is our coordinator. If you're in here, Kelly, somewhere. But we've been meeting on a somewhat regular basis. It was spurred by White Hunger. It's based in New York, Harry Chapin's organization. And it's becoming more solid and more clear, but we're a diverse group of growers and farmers marketers and health so on. And it's maybe could be the coordinating or the structural part of us connecting with each other, so we don't have to reinvent this wheel again. So we've got something in place and a coordinator that's communicating on a regular basis, and we want to grow that community of people. We're initially 75 of us.
Yeah, that's a great point, and we are working on building a website, the Pima County Food Systems Alliance, but Somos La Semilla also has a website, and I know y'all have been working on tools for communicating and posting news and events, and so that's something we're thinking about too, and I think it would make sense to have, to have our sites feeding from the same information, both pointing to the same page, basically. So, is there another hand back there?
In the Farmer Education Resource Network group, we were talking about rallying around new farmers, young agrarians, and investigating new models and opportunities for accreditation so that young farmers can leave knowing, like, what skills that they've acquired and go on and get a job or another internship or something given their new skills.
How about co-ops? We had kind of our last session focused a lot on co-ops. Are there any thoughts? I'm just curious in the room about co-ops.
I had this thought as I was thinking about producing food as I'm getting ready to do and selling it, and my first thought was, what an effort to go to the farmer's market once or twice a week. I wonder if the other producers would like to share this effort and rotate going to the farmer's market and selling each other's product. So it takes a lot of time out of that marketing equation if we can share that effort. But there has to be a level of trust in order for that to happen.
Sure. John, in the back?
Yeah. Is there anybody from the food bank that maybe can share what they have? Because I think the food bank does something like that, right? Farmers. Yeah, they're like consignment things. So it's kind of like
There are a few of us here from the food bank. Our consignment coordinator is here, Audra, and there she is. So basically, it's a way for backyard gardeners to sell their produce without having to come to the market. So they deliver their food to us. We sell it. They get 90% of the profits. We keep 10% just to kind of cover our costs. Is that right, Audra?
Yep. Backyard gardeners and farmers.
Yeah.
We want to bring our extra too. So.
Yeah, and we have some, do you remember any of the numbers? We have, what, 300
Oh, how many people?
consignment growers at the moment?
On the list, it's about like 164.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Does that answer your question, John? More or less?
Yeah, kind of. I didn't know if there's any other loose co-op.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth talking about the next scale because, Audra is completely overwhelmed, I can tell you that. So, as we're talking about larger and still all relatively small scale, but more than maybe just backyard, it does make sense to me to start talking about coordinating, maybe I really loved what Robin was saying, I think that was Robin about, or no, that was Dan, about coordinating your crops across a whole region.
Yeah, I was really, really excited about their cooperative idea, and I had no idea how that
Okay.
would, I mean, that's a huge thing,
Yeah.
but yeah, it really seemed to kind of tie together a lot of the issues that everyone who is a producer faces.
Yeah. Was there someone? Yeah, you?
I recognize how alone I feel coming from the northern Arizona section of the state. I'm not alone. But really hoping that we can kind of really coordinate our efforts down here because I'm just really impressed with this region's dynamic ability to collaborate and come together. So yeah, hoping that will filter up to that part of the state.
Thanks.
How can we educate the general public about the importance of choosing local foods, so that we can support better the people who are doing it?
Yeah. So how can we better educate the public about local foods, if you didn't hear in the back.
But I don't think it's just local foods, it's local businesses and interconnections.
Local foods and local businesses, it goes beyond that.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Ann, all the way.
I like what Robert said about when he had a hailstorm and when he took down a conference and he juice. Because we have a lot of food that's left over. You know, once the market closes, you got anything left pretty much. Animal feed or compost material. But we had some place where we could can it, freeze it, dry it, any of those things. It also teach you to do those things.
Yeah. Oh, Bryn was just asking me to summarize ways of, I think it would require some infrastructure, but ways to look at using products creatively, maybe products that are going to be wasted or could be gleaned.
I wanted to bring up one thing, and if maybe you guys can look next to you and see if there's anybody that you wish was in the room who isn't here. One of the people, or one of the groups that I wish was kind of more representative was, is the slightly larger scale guys, or those who are kind of frustrated with the current way that they're forced to grow. There's been some discussion in the past of creating a farmer network where younger generation farmers can start coming onto these farms and maybe piece by piece transforming some of these farms that have been locked into their current scale of production. So those guys aren't necessarily in this room, and the question that I always wonder is, we're talking to each other about our scale of production, right, which is meeting a very small quantity of the total demand. But what if there are a few out there who, historically they may have access to a lot of land that they would like to produce in, or even begin to. That may be a resource, and those individuals tend to be a gateway to something like that. So I think it's very important to realize and think about those individuals, because you may be out in the community talking to them or just run into them, and we tend to kind of put a block up, an instant block, if we're not producing at their level, I guess the perceived level. So just something to think about.
On a similar note to that, we have on the evals, if there are people that you think are really important that should be in the room, please put at least their name. If you have contact info, we can't add them to our email list without their permission, but we can email them individually and try and start a conversation. So please do that in the other comments section. Are there any last burning? Okay.
I was along the lines of supporting each other. Some website, it would be helpful if a website that had all the local producers on it, or a listing of whoever wants to be on it, and some kind of a bulletin board, so that to facilitate communication. Like, it's great that we're all here in this room right now, and this is a great opportunity, but enabling that to continue to flow in a quicker way.
Okay.
In the future, for whatever it is, from looking for someone to share cost and on tractor equipment, or we have a little extra harvest from this. Anybody need it? Whatever that is,
Okay.
I want a couple pigs.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's exactly the kind of thing that we're having our leadership council look at, is how can we facilitate communication among growers and create that list. So I think that's definitely a goal.
But that still depends on each one of us that's out in the field going into the computer and looking that up.
Checking your email.
So that's some personal responsibility.
Megan?
I know that Baja Arizona Sustainable Agriculture and the Santa Cruz Valley Heritage Alliance both have producer lists. We don't have the bulletin board side of things, but you can visit BASA's website at bajaaz.org, and the Santa Cruz Valley is, I think SantaCruzHeritageAlliance.org.
Great.
So at least that part of it is getting started. And if your information isn't on there, please email me, and I'll get it on there.
You see what I mean? That's like so confusing.
Yeah.
Coming from coming from Cochise County, I'm like,
Well, our hope.
It's funny.
Our hope with the Pima County Food Systems Alliance, and well, I haven't even said this to the Leadership Council, but I'm kind of hoping that we change the name to just Pima Food Alliance is what I would vote for, because it's really it's beyond Pima County. It's the whole food shed, really. But it actually started under this grant where we had to focus on Pima County, so. But that grant is ending, so we can do whatever we want in a couple of weeks. Yeah, no money equals freedom.
Kind of piggybacking on what you just said, but looking at it at a bigger scale, I think Northern Flagstaff, I hope I'm not speaking for someone inappropriately, but I think Northern Flagstaff is definitely interested in participating in a statewide food policy council.
Yeah.
I know there was once one, and I don't know what happened. It was before I moved here, but I think it's important, especially in light of the regulations that are building, and I know a lot of growers are very worried about those regulations. So,
Yeah. So the Flagstaff area interested, if you couldn't hear, interested in forming something a little more statewide, especially like was it Dan or Luis? I can't remember who was talking about the policy coming down on us that we, on a statewide level or a national level. So that would make a lot of sense.
Just so you know, there was talk before of the Verde Food Council becoming the state council, but in doing so, they were in a little bit of a tether in that they might have been embedded within state government as opposed to them as the community. So you really got to be careful if we're talking about a state council, we're talking about representatives from each one of the councils, which would make sense to me, or are you talking about getting funding potentially from or how that structure would be very important.
Well, we're going to have to wrap it up. I'm sorry, but I just want to do a couple nuts and bolts things. We are going to be sending out an email that will have a link to Ken's report and any of the, we're videotaping all of this, so it may take a couple weeks or a month, I'm not sure, but we are hoping to post everything on our website that can be streamed. We'll also try and do like a 20-minute version and maybe a 2-minute version. If you didn't actually register for this conference, that means we might not have your email. So I would say write it on your evaluation form. And please do open this email. I know we sent emails trying to get people to respond, and we're all so busy that we don't have time to check every email. But really look for this email, because it will have kind of notes and next steps and Ken's report and all of that great stuff. Maybe some links to Gary's stuff and the other speakers.
Who's the email coming from so we know to open it?
It will be coming, good question, who's the email coming from? It'll be coming from the Pima County Food Systems Alliance. There will be an email address associated with it, but the sender name will be Pima County Food Systems Alliance. Good point. All right, well, I just want to thank you guys so much for coming. I know it's hard to take a whole day off. I saw actually on the board up there of wants and needs for growers in this area is to do this at least once a year. And I think that's a great goal, so we'll shoot for that.